Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. We've got play of props, the bread and butter here for you guys. A couple of picks on a 11-game slate here in the NBA on Wednesday. Finally have more games than just a couple, as the IST is on a break until tomorrow on Thursday when we get two more games. Semifinals are ready to go in Vegas there. I also want you to check out the best bets video that we have for you up today. We have player props here in this one, as I mentioned. Continue to like each and every one of those videos if you would. We're going to be bringing them to you every weekday. Also head to thelines.com. Use that props finder tool that we have up on the site. Nate and I use it every day to make sure that we're getting the best odds and juice across all of these sports books, giving us bets this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and run into one of our favorite boys here, the friend of the show, DG, the PG.
Yeah, but he is a point guard first and foremost. Last time we took him, I said maybe over points, maybe over assists. He got the assists, not the points, and I will go under points here, 20.5 against Orlando. Just a tough defensive matchup here for both teams with a 223 total. I mean, despite Orlando's success recently on offense, this is a clear bounce back spot for them defensively after winning 11 straight. They had a 129 defensive rating at Brooklyn, not the norm. Their rare spike games this season, they've immediately bounced back with just a fantastic defensive effort. Defense is all about effort, as they say, and these guys they have depth on the wing and at guard to throw at these guys, and they bounce back. So they gave up 128 in terms of points per 100 against Denver, then 97 the next game against Boston. And 131 at Brooklyn again, which apparently is just a really tough matchup for them. And then on a back-to-back, a 99 rating against Chicago. Granted, Chicago's offense is dreadful, but Jason Tatum is the only dude in those games to top 20 points. And, it wasn't even really close for a lot of other guys. So just nobody really getting anything easy against Orlando and everyone they can throw at them. And in this matchup, I am looking at Donovan Mitchell being the guy who can top 20 points. You kind of need to be a transcendent talent. Of course, his prop is 27.5. I would not go under just because he can spike so high. And his last two against Orlando, 38 points on 35% usage, 60-60 splits. Just incredible against a team that's been good at defense for multiple seasons here. In those two, for DG, 17 points on 24% usage, despite playing most of the game. Very poor shooting splits, 39, 30%, a mere mortal, if you will, against good guard defense. And in his 5 home games with Donovan Mitchell, 17.5 points per game this season, 27% usage, just more tasked with setting up the offense, keeping everyone on schedule, and not tasked with trying to break down a set defense as much as Donnie is.
Yeah, I like it. I like the attack of Orlando being a fast-paced offensive team at home now, and the regular Orlando Magic that we know and love from last year, who really need to muck it up to hang with teams that are as good as the Cavs. They're not going to have a choice in this one. As you said, the Cavs are turning back into Cavs ball. It's been a lot of not Cavs ball. Not a lot of guys in, not a lot of really as quality defense around the rim that really just broke everything else. They don't have the same wing defense that they had last year in the Cavs, and now they do, and they're able to play a little bit more Cavs ball, like I said, which does not afford a ton more points, and the Magic will definitely play that bruiser ball with you, unless you're just an awful team like the Wizards, and then they'll just blow you out and score 140 at home, and that's not the case here in this one. So I'm going with a scary under, real scary under, and Nate doesn't like it, full transparency, but I'm going to go with it still because gotta believe in yourself. That's the lesson for the day. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under 11.5 rebounds and assists because I believe in myself. Under in that one is scary. Anytime I say under SGA, who is a top 3 MVP candidate, as Nate astutely pointed out, yeah, it's going to be scary. But this is what I do. I love finding the unders for like a Joker Embiid SGA type. So Houston limits opponents to the fewest assists per game. They also limit point guards to the fewest assists per game. This is also why I'm terrified of the points for SGA. I would never take the under in this one for points. 29.5, even though they're playing the best defensive team at home in the Rockets, who have they're allowing 98 points per game when they play at home. I still don't care about that when you've got a dude who gets to the foul line against a team that fouls a lot. And they foul a lot because they have Dylan Brooks, first and foremost, who's in the top 5 in most personal fouls per game, even though he's a shooting guard. and you would expect more centers to be at the top of that list. Then they've also got Alperen Şengün as their center and defensive anchor. And I would not give him credit for being a good defensive anchor, although I will say he's a lot better than he was last year, because last year he was a legit turnstile, allowing nearly 80% field goal percentage at inside of 5 feet was Şengün last season. So he's improved for sure, but it's still like you mentioned it in the best bets video when you took OKC, like where are the Rockets most vulnerable? Right inside that foul line area, right where Shai is trying to get every single play, which is how we saw him get 40 against the Dubs in the same style of defense. A little bit of a drop coverage, not as much down low to be able to stop you. And once you get to the free throw line, he can score over even guys like Dillon Brooks, who we both don't expect to be in the game very long. So a little bonus pick. If you want under 11.5 points for Dillon Brooks, I would say you're likely to get that based on the fact that he's going to be exhausted running around. OKC's defense is incredible, and he might not even be playing that much if he's got 4 fouls by like the third quarter, which would not be out of the realm of possibility. Because they allow so many free throws per game, and because Brooks fouls so much, etc. Not because of that, but I've looked at that as well when he played Memphis. And when Shai played Memphis last year, not a 1-to-1. Don't get me wrong. Like Memphis's defense last year was as incredible when they had Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson in there. Still better than Chet and Jalen Williams and any other front court that you might throw at the Rockets tonight. But that's at you get what I'm saying. But either way, the point is like Brooks against him has limited him to 2 assists over his last 2 games. And as you mentioned in the video, 31 free throw attempts. In 2 of his last 3, like he's averaging 11.5 free throw attempts against Brooks when he plays against him. And the Grizzlies were much better at not fouling than the Rockets are. So the under last thing here has gone on, has hit in 7 of his last 10 games. And I know that the fear might be Josh Giddey is heavily distracted by being in the court system right now. So we'll see how that goes. And that's a big part of why Shai is, it's a scary bet when you think of the fact that he might have a little bit more to eat without Josh Giddey in there. And feeding guys like Isaiah Joe. I totally see that. I just don't think that's the game plan tonight against a team that doesn't let you do that. So,
but if you want to take, it sounds like everything you're doing is shorting assists. So why are you throwing the rebounds in there in a game that could
low.
be 98-101? Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess getting under assists would definitely help you get there. I'm not saying Shai is going to get 8 rebounds in this game, but it's a possibility. He's a good rebounding guard. If there's that many boards and it's that close as the spread suggests, like that's just what I worry about, is just that making winning plays on both ends here, and potentially getting over in that regard. And then what you mentioned which is Giddey playing like 17 minutes in his last game, continually phased out, very distracted by the fact that he's in the court system, and that forces SGA to be more of a true point guard. So that's just my concern. But I think with these 2 good defenses out there, it is fair enough to say assists will be hard to come by.
Yeah.
Terrible defenses in Dallas, though. And Utah at Dallas, high total. Expected potential blowout here with no Markkanen, no Jordan Clarkson. But I'll still take the rookie Keontae George to get some points here. Hopefully they keep giving him run, even if it's getting a little out of hand. 25.5 PRA for him as he comes off a 21-6-6 game against Portland. That was just his 3rd of the season without Jordan Clarkson. His first 2 pretty brutal matchups against New Orleans and Minnesota. Tougher defenses I cannot find for a young guard. But he's still averaging over this number in 3 without Clarkson, 16, 5, and 5. And now playing without Markkanen, you see his points go up 6 points per game in 5 without Markkanen, up to 27% usage. He goes up 7 points per game without Clarkson, up to 30% usage. And both guys out tonight. He's almost, the number 1 option now for Utah against a Alice backcourt that is just dreadful. Allow the 5th most fast break points, 5th most paint points, 4th most assists, 2nd most rebounds, and specifically 4th most assists and 7th most rebounds to point guards, allowing 11 assists just to point guards in their last 7 games, and have struggled in general at home, where they were good. Since Luka just smacked the Clippers again, they've lost 3 or 4 at home with a 123 defensive rating. So maybe Utah finds a way to stay in this game despite being shorthanded.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they do. I think Keontae's going to just eat. I first have to tell everybody that it's a brilliant nickname for Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson if they ever come up with it, for Mark and Clark, or Clark and Mark. I don't know. That is a great nickname for those 2. And they are the entire offense for this team right now. I wish that Jordan Clarkson wasn't there because of how much I love Keontae George and because I have an 85-1 Rookie of the Year ticket that's not going to hit because Chet Holmgren exists and so does Victor Wembanyama. It was fun while it lasted, but either way, like Keontae should be eating a lot more, and too often the offense turns into Jordan Clarkson, go and get yours. It just feels like a gap year for them, and Keontae is going to continue to eat more whenever Clark's out, whenever Mark is out, obviously as well. Although he doesn't eat into Keontae nearly as much as Jordan Clarkson, who. Yeah, backing Keontae George and having Jordan Clarkson out there would be so frustrating, and I would probably stay away from it. But as soon as Clark is out, yeah, I'm on Keontae George with you, as you know how much I love the Rook. So let me close it out here with another maybe controversial pick, but it's an over, and it's Klay Thompson, and we're getting it tonight, Klay. So Klay is back. Like enough isn't made of the fact that Klay doesn't do well in November. This has been the case since he came back from Achilles and knees injuries. This was the case before he went on leave with knees and Achilles injuries. Like, he just picks it up because he's a head case to a degree. Like, that's my breakdown at this point of Klay, is like, he's been bad because he's a head case. Once he sees the ball go in, then he's good. In the last 6 games, the ball finally started going in. Last six, he's up to 31.5 minutes and a 24% usage rate. That's a slight uptick because he's finally making his shot, so he's not a liability and can play a few more minutes in the third quarter and the first quarter especially, where he was coming out early because they were losing, they were giving up leads early and in the second half as well, going into the fourth. So now he's got able to play a couple more minutes in each quarter. His usage has also gone up, so a few more shots overall because of the minutes and the usage. He's averaged 20 a game. He's only at 41% field goal percentage in the last 6 and on the entire season from the whole floor. But in the last 6, he's 41% from deep as well, which is crucial because he was at 33% from deep. The other thing that I do like, you never want to bank on free throw attempts from Klay Thompson, the dude who once scored, 60 points on 4 dribbles. But he has gone up to 4 free throw attempts per game in the last 6 as opposed to 1, just 1. So he wasn't even sniffing the paint really before, and at least now we can bank on 3 points per game from the free throw line as a career 90% free throw shooter. Like, he's not going to miss more than 1 per game at that time. So with 4 threes per game, he's up to 3.8 in the last 6, plus those 3 free throws, getting really, really close to 17 points. Plus, we're talking about a game tonight where he's gone over against Portland. He's really enjoyed playing against them. They have a very weak backcourt, even though they're good. I will be very clear, like, they're good at defending the 3, and I know that. They limit threes to a good degree, in part because they just hemorrhage points in the paint because Dominatin is down there as your best center defender. So, the Nuggets, the Dubs are not necessarily they've actually been better this year at getting into the paint and even second chance points. So I believe they'll do that, but they're still going to be pulling from deep. Clay's going to be pulling a lot in a game where he's, like I said, played really well against his team, gone over in his last 5 against them. He's averaging 25 versus them in just 30 minutes since in the last 5 he played since he did come back from those injuries a few years ago. Just feels like another great matchup at home for Klay, baby.
Maybe the matchup is too good for the Warriors, though. Ayton is doubtful. Jeremy Grant is out with a concussion. So true. The Warriors are minus 12. Probably going to roll this team. But, they are going to try to feed Klay in terms of building his confidence. So I do like that angle. Yeah. They might run him off the 3-point line, but no rim protection for Portland beyond that. So maybe he does get higher usage. I think the way I would play this is maybe go under for Steph points, because I think this is a night where Steph goes 20, 6 assists, plays 30-ish minutes, and then just gets out of there as the Warriors roll at home. But they need to get Klay on track, so maybe that's how he gets to 17 here. We get one of those spike Klay games to start the avalanche for the Warriors if they pull away.
Yeah, I mean, things aren't peachy in San Francisco where they play now. So I do think that there is something to taking advantage of games like this one. It seems a little sad, but I think they gotta take those dubs when they can get them. And really, the bigger the dub, the bigger the blowout, the better it is for morale, because it's not high right now. I will say that in the Bay Area, Klay Thompson being a big part of that, and his resurgence in the last 6 games has been a big reason for people maybe still believing in this team and its future this season. But that is all the time we have for you and Play Up Props. Continue to follow along, like, and subscribe to that page. Also, check out the best bets that we have up for you. Until we see you next, happy betting.